Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD physician. I'm not an endocrinologist. I'll try to cover up as much as possible, which is important for you. Today we'll be discussing on a topic we call hyperthyroidism or we call thyrotoxicosis. So we use the common term classical picture of exophthalmos. Classical, this is neonatal. So we call hyperthyroidism or we call thyrotoxicosis. There is another term called Graves' disease, which is autoimmune thyrotoxicosis, plumber, where you get a toxic multinodular goiter, hyperfunctioning multinodular goiter. Hashimoto's is one of the stage in a Hashimoto's thyroiditis where you got excessive production of T3, T4, and that produces Hashimoto's toxicosis. Even Graves' disease is called Bezdow's disease. You can have factitious thyrotoxicosis, also called as iatrogenic thyrotoxicosis. There is one another variety we call subclinical hyperthyroidism, which is usually asymptomatic. You can have only T3 level being elevated more, and that produces thyrotoxicosis we call T3 thyrotoxicosis. There can be a solitary nodule we call toxic solitary nodule or toxic solitary adenoma, also called as Goitis disease. We'll be discussing under different headings: definition, etiology, pathophysiology, clinical features, investigations, differential diagnosis, treatment and complications. By definition, hypothyroidism means increased level of thyroid hormone in blood. If there is biochemical, means elevated level of thyroid hormone in blood plus clinical symptoms and signs of excess hormone, then you call that as thyrotoxicosis. So the results of excessive thyroid function due to increased level of thyroid hormone, we call that as thyrotoxicosis. Thyroid hormone excess can be because of any etiology, maybe primary because of thyroid gland disorders or maybe because of XYZ reasons. So increased thyroid hormone secretion is hyperthyroidism. But increased thyroid hormone plus clinical symptoms and signs due to excessive thyroid hormone, we call as thyrotoxicosis. So thyrotoxicosis is the clinical syndrome that results when the tissue are exposed to high level of circulating thyroid hormone. And that can be hyperthyroidism because of excess of T34 or can be because of excess of intake of thyroxine, we call iatrogenic, or release of hormones because of ovarian tumor like teratomas or testicular teratomas, bronchogenic carcinoma, GI tract tumors, etc. Paraneoplastic syndrome. Same thing, hyperthyroidism difference and thyrotoxicosis difference. So thyrotoxicosis is because of manifestation because of excessive circulating hormone, while hyperthyroidism means the thyroid gland is functioning more than normal and you got a T3 and T4 level elevated. Hyperthyroid patient is thyrotoxic, but all thyrotoxic patient need not be a overactive thyroid gland. So thyrotoxicosis can be because of thyroid gland or maybe because of other than thyroid gland. There are few other terms which are very commonly utilized depending upon the etiology. Basically, if the thyroid gland is at disorder, we call it a primary thyrotoxicosis. If pituitary gland or hypothalamus is a disorder, we call secondary or tertiary. tertiary means hypothalamus, secondary means pituitary. By and large, now the secondary word is commonly utilized, tertiary word is not commonly utilized. If it is present because of some genetic defects or congenital defects, we call it as congenital hyperthyroidism, and it will be present right since birth. If it is present in an early age, we call neonatal, and when it is present in an adult group, we call as adult thyrotoxicosis. Another term, when it is for a short period, say like in a Hashimoto toxicosis, or maybe postpartum, or maybe persistent for a long period, then we call persistent or permanent. Depending upon the radioactive uptake, we call thyrotoxicosis with low radioactive uptake or with high radioactive uptake. High radioactive uptake means the person has got a toxic goiter, and some conditions where there is a low radioactive uptake, where the thyroid gland is not having an active secretions. So thyrotoxicosis may be with a low radioactive uptake or maybe with a high. This is an active thyroid gland. There are other names utilized depending upon the goiter and etiology. We call Graves' disease, or it is also called as a Basedow disease. Then Plummer is for toxic multinodular goiter, and for solitary nodule or solitary adenoma having thyrotoxicosis is called Goiter's disease. Depending upon the duration and onset, we call subacute, chronic. Subacute is very frequently in a person with what we call as subacute thyroiditis, particularly Dequarian thyroiditis. While in a chronic, usually very commonly because of Hashimoto's or what we call as autoimmune thyroiditis like Hashimoto's or Riddle's thyroiditis. And that we call, when it is in a Hashimoto, we call Hashimoto toxicosis. And there is another group we call as a Jones-Basedow disease, where because of excess of iodine intake or because of some drugs, person develops thyrotoxicosis. That is called Jones-Basedow disease. You can have thyrotoxicosis secondary to other than thyroid gland like factitious or iatrogenic, where a person is consuming levothyroxine from outside for hormone replacement therapy in a hypothyroidism, or person can have external secretions of TSH which can result into thyrotoxicosis like struma overi or testicular teratomas, or paraneoplastic syndrome where we call TSH omas. So tumor secreting TSH like bronchogenic carcinoma, some of the GI tract tumors, etc. So these are all the different terms which are being utilized in thyrotoxicosis. Most common term, congenital and acquired, primary and secondary, overt, we call clinical or subclinical, permanent and transient. Primary, secondary and tertiary. This is primary where the thyroid gland is a disorder. Secondary means pituitary gland producing excess of TSH resulting into thyrotoxicosis. And hypothalamus producing TRH in excess, and that can be central variety or we call tertiary. Usually the tertiary word is nowadays not utilized. And depending upon the etiology, we say congenital and acquired. Overt or we call clinical and subclinical variety. You can have a T3 only excess, then we call T3 thyrotoxicosis, where T3 is high, T4 is normal and TSH is very low. Classical thyrotoxicosis where free T4 is high and TSH is very low. In a subclinical, T3, T4 is normal, both free hormones, that is T3, T4 is normal, but TSH is low. then we call that as subclinical thyrotoxicosis. You have got other terms like Graves' disease, we already told you, also called as a base dose disease, Hashimoto toxicosis, Plummer, and coitus. As far as iatrogenic is concerned, it is to exogenous thyroid hormone. You can call that as a thyrotoxicosis factitia or thyrotoxicosis medicamentosa or thyrotoxicosis insidiasis, or also called as factitious thyrotoxicosis, iatrogenic thyrotoxicosis. Factitia is because of external thyroid hormone like levothyroxine, and these are symptoms and they are described as Munchausen syndrome. Medicamentosa means the patient who is consuming excess dose of patient is taking a treatment for goiter to shrink the thyroid gland, and because of that he develops thyrotoxicosis. That is a term utilized, medicamentosa. And very frequently in a psychiatric disorders also, takes excessive dose of thyroid hormone, a person with a psychiatric disorders. There is one another term called Hamburger's thyrotoxicosis, where there can be outbreak of thyrotoxicosis attributed to thyroid gland being included in a neck trimming that were used to make mix. In amiodarone, there are two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 amiodarone induced thyrotoxicosis is because of increased synthesis of thyroid hormone, where already the person is having pre-existing nodular goiter, and by giving amiodarone you are giving excess of iodine, and that produces thyrotoxicosis, while a second variety is attributed to the destruction of the follicle producing thyroiditis like picture, and that are the two varieties of amiodarone induced thyrotoxicosis, or it is called AIT, amiodarone I induced T thyrotoxicosis. Now we forget all those terms, we come to the common words. Almost 94% of the cases of thyrotoxicosis are because of Graves' disease, and this Graves' disease is because of excess of TSH receptor stimulating hormone. TSH receptor stimulating antibody, sorry, not hormone. Antibody to TSH receptor, and they are stimulating antibodies. Second group is because of adenoma or maybe because of multinodular goiter, and when it is a toxic multinodular goiter we call as a Plummer disease. You can have a subacute thyroiditis. You can have Hashimoto's thyroiditis having a clinical picture of thyrotoxicosis, and this is usually for a short period. Later on the person goes into hypothyroidism, and that we call as a Hashimotoxicosis. We have already told you rare conditions like thyrotoxicosis factitia, struma overi, thyroid metastasis, malignant metastasis, TSH secreting tumors, particularly tumors, bronchogenic carcinoma, GI tract tumors, ovarian teratomas, testicular teratomas, etc. And when it is a testicular teratoma, we call struma overi. So bronchogenic carcinoma, or you can have an iodine excess in your diet, or because of a drugs like amiodarone, you can have a best dose effect, or it can be secondary due to autoimmune thyroiditis like Hashimoto's. But the most common cause is Graves' disease. So rule out that particular first. There are a lot of other diseases. In a Graves, it is a diffuse toxic goiter. Plummer is toxic multinodular goiter. You can have a subacute thyroiditis. You can have a single adenoma, or we call solitary toxic nodule. We call Goiter's disease. Pituitary tumor, because of excess of TSH, we call secondary thyrotoxicosis. Choriocarcinoma or molar pregnancy can secrete excess of human gonadotropin, which will have similar action like TSH, producing thyrotoxicosis. Functioning thyroid malignancy having a secondary metastasis, struma ovariae, that is ovarian tumor, particularly teratomas, and we have told you thyrotoxicosis factitia because of hormone replacement therapy or because of amiodarone or because of interferons or because of some drugs like lithiums, etc. So these are all the conditions which can end up with hyperthyroidism. Again, the most common cause is Graves' disease. You can divide into primary, or you can call thyrotoxicosis without hyperthyroidism, means it is outside the thyroid gland, and secondary hyperthyroidism. So in a primary, Graves' disease, toxic multinodular goiter, adenoma, thyroid malignancy, mutation of TSH receptor, struma ovariae. Actually, this struma ovariae should be in a secondary groups. Iodine excess, again this should be in a secondary groups. But in an iodine excess, if already person is having a toxic goiter or a only goiter, and because of excess of intake of iodine, you can have a dose-based phenomena and can end up with a hyperthyroidism. You can have a thyrotoxicosis without hyperthyroidism like subacute thyroiditis, silent thyroiditis, or because of drugs like amiodarone, radiation, infarction of adenomas, thyrotoxicosis factitia, etc. In a secondary variety, it is because of pituitary adenoma, like we call beta cell tumors, which secretes TSH hormone, or you can have a chorionic gonadotropic secreting tumors, which is mainly choriocarcinoma, or you can have a gestational thyrotoxicosis because of excess of production of gonadotropic hormones. We call as a chorionic gonadotropic hormone. So that can be all the different conditions. You can divide into three groups: primary, secondary, and thyrotoxicosis without hyperthyroidism. This is in further detail. Hyperthyroidism are these four common conditions: Graves' disease, toxic multinodular goiter, toxic adenoma, or you can have a solitary nodule. We call goitus or dose-based phenomena. So this will be the four common, which will have a primary variety, and you can have a without hyperthyroidism like subacute, ectopic thyroid, silent thyroiditis, struma ovariae, secondary metastasis, trophoblastic tumor, postpartum thyroiditis, thyrotoxicosis factitia, etc. These are with increased uptake, these are with decreased uptake. Graves' disease, toxic multinodular goiter, adenoma, solitary nodule will be with a increased radioactive uptake. Or there is an excess of TSH secretions like pituitary tumors, excess of TSH like material, choriocarcinoma, etc. will also have excess uptake because it will stimulate the thyroid gland to have increased function. And in all those conditions, you will have an increased radioactive uptake. While the conditions where there is a destruction of a thyroid gland or inflammation of thyroid gland, you will have a decreased radioactive uptake like thyroiditis, subacute, silent, postpartum, traumatic, radiation thyroiditis, or if a person who is taking TSH from outside, which produces thyrotoxicosis, but thyroid gland is suppressed. So thyroid uptake by thyroid gland will be poor. So radioactive uptake will be poor. So in those conditions like thyrotoxicosis factitia, medicamentosa, insistiasis, Hamburger's thyrotoxicosis, or medication taken for weight loss. Say some person takes T3 or levothyroxine for weight loss, so or for reduction of goiter. So those exogenous thyroid hormones taking people will have a decreased radioactive uptake. Or person is taking excess of iodine from outside and he is having a dose-based phenomena. So radiographic contrast media, amiodarone, and iodine supplements, which is taken in excess. All these conditions will also have a decreased radioactive iodine uptake. Lithium, interferon, interleukins also will have a decreased radioactive uptake because they suppress thyroid gland. You can have a transient variety like neonatal thyrotoxicosis or because of acute or subacute thyroiditis. So in an initial stage, you have got a little excess of thyroid hormone, then later on they go into what we call as a hypothyroidism. Or in a person who is having amiodarone, interferon, interleukins, or iatrogenic. In those, it is transient. As soon as you stop the drugs, the person will return back to normal. While it is persistent in case of Graves, toxic multinodular goiter, solitary or adenoma, or we call it a toxic solitary nodule, and central variety, where there is an increased production of a TSH, pituitary induce, or maybe hypothalamic induce. This is neonatal, different name givens, fetal Graves hypothyroidism, postpartum hypothyroidism, or transient hypothyroidism. We already mentioned this primary hypothyroidism. I skipped this particular slide. Primary, secondary, and tertiary. Secondary is pituitary and tertiary is hypothalamus. This is secondary groups. Apart from pituitary, you can have excess of TSH secreting tumors that can also produce secondary variety of hypothyroidism, like hydatidiform moles, choriocarcinoma, where human gonadotrophic hormone is excess. Then testicular teratoma, ovarian teratoma, we call as a struma ovari, will be secreting TSH. Gestational hypothyroidism can take place, or because of hyperfunctioning thyroid carcinoma having secondary metastasis can also produce secondary hypothyroidism. Sometimes hypothyroidism is associated with type 1 diabetes mellitus, hypoadrenalism, that is Addison's, may be associated with alopecia, and you can have a positive antibody, microsomal antibody and thyroglobulin antibody. Or maybe also sometime associated with rheumatoid arthritis, pernicious anemia, SLE, etc. Maybe this thing may be associated things. As far as pathogenesis is concerned, very simple. In a neonatal Graves disease, it is because of the transplacental passage of TSH receptor stimulating antibodies. So when they are passed through placenta, it will have effect on a neonates or fetus, and it will produce neonatal Graves, or we call neonatal thyrotoxicosis, which may be temporary. By and large, it is temporary. These are the different words which we have already introduced before, and this is the pathogenesis. I'm not going into detail. Some of the things I'm just highlighting. In a Graves disease, it is because of excess of THS receptor stimulating antibody. In toxic adenoma, it is because of somatic gains of function mutation of TSH receptors. That is in adenoma, multinodular goiter, and hypothyroidic carcinoma. The TSH receptor mutation has taken place. In familial non-autoimmune thyroiditis, it is because of, again, increase in mutation of THS receptor. Then TSH secreting pituitary tumors, you got excess of production of a TSH, and that will stimulate the thyroid gland. Human choriogonadotrophic hormone secreting tumors or excess of HCG will produce increased stimulation of TSH receptor, because HCG can combine with TSH receptor and works identical like TSH. There are some familial hypersensitivity to HCG. Trophoblastic tumor, again same, because of increased stimulation of TSH receptor by human choriogonadotrophic hormones, in particularly in hydatidiform mole, choriocarcinoma, etc. In struma ovari, there is an excess of production of TSH, and iodine will produce Jones-Best-Dose phenomena and gives rise to thyrotoxicosis. So because of excess of hormones, you can have excess effect of T34 producing classical thyrotoxicosis. I don't go into detail how exactly excess of TSH produces T34, and that T34 will have an effect on a protein metabolism, excess of protein catabolism, excess of glucose production, hyperglycemia. On a fat, lipolysis and gives rise to loss of body weight. Fat depot will be reduced. Protein mass will be reduced. On a bone, it will produce osteoporosis because of increased osteoclastic activity. On a liver, it will produce increased glycogenolysis, increased gluconeogenesis. It will increase your BMR. Person will have a hyperthermia, increased body temperature. Then person will have a stimulation of a sympathetic system having increased catecholamine production that will give rise to tremors, sweating, excitability, tachycardia, hypertension, wide pulse pressure, will produce tachyarrhythmias like atrial flutter fibrillation, and even it can end up with acute MI, etc. Basically, this is a small difference between Graves and Hashimoto's. Here there is a stimulating factors which will stimulate the TSH receptor, and that produces thyrotoxicosis, we call as a Graves disease. While you can have a blocking agents which blocks and will end up with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. But if there is a stimulating antibody, when the person is developing Hashimoto's for a temporary period, it can produce thyrotoxicosis. Then it is called Hashithyrotoxicosis. Invariably, person in Hashimoto's, when inhibitory antibodies are in excess, it will give rise to what we call as destruction of the thyroid gland tissue and will end up with hypothyroidism, we call myxedema. So one of the most common cause of myxedema is Hashimoto's. Now primary hyperthyroidism due to infection of a thyroid gland, initially you will have a increased production of a T3 T4 and later on because of destruction person will have a hypo, and if a person recovers may become euthyroid. These are the effect on liver, small intestine, reproductive organs, brain, heart, kidney. In kidney it will increase the GFR by which the redundant blood flow is increased. So GFR is increased and you will have a excretion of some of the products. On liver we have already told you it will increase lipid degradation, protein will not be manufactured, so you will start developing hypoproteinemia, protein catabolic, and also there will be increased glucose output from liver, neoglucogenesis and glycogenolysis. Intestinal peristalsis will increase, the person will have a loose motion, increased GI motility, malabsorption. On reproductive, decrease fertility, menstrual abnormality like amenorrhea, and you can have a pregnancy loss. On a brain, excitability, hyperkinesia, tremors, increased adrenergic tone. And because of that increased adrenergic tone, tachycardia, palpitation, increased cardiac output, rapid pulse, atrial flutter fibrillations, etc. All these are the effect of thyrotoxicosis. So these are all those effects. I'll be bypassing slowly. So this is the increased heart rate, stroke volume, cardiac output, blood flow is increased. Increased BMR, hypermetabolism. So there is negative protein balance, negative lipid balance, and carbohydrate level in blood will be increased, and there will be increased sympathetic activity. This is the effect on a cardiovascular system: increased blood volume, increased venous return, reduced systemic vascular resistance because of vasodilatation, reduced functional cardiac reserve, decreased exercise capacity, tachyarrhythmias, myocardial infarction, myocardial ischemia, and can end up with infarction, increase myocardial contractility, increase oxygen consumption. If that is not met with, person can end up with acute myocardial infarction also. We already told you protein synthesis and degradation will be increased. Breakdown, so decrease in the muscle mass, leads to loss of protein, negative nitrogen balance. On a glucose, we already told you that it will increase hyperglycemia, glucose level in blood because of glycogenolysis and increased neoglucogenesis. On a fat, increased fat metabolism, decreased fat depot, increased appetite, increased food intake will increase, weight loss will be there, and because of malabsorption, nutritional deficiency will develop. Clinical picture you can divide depending upon the age. In a newborn, fetal thyrotoxicosis, or we call neonatal thyrotoxicosis. Then person can have a subacute thyroiditis resulting into thyrotoxicosis, where you will have a three-stage, initially thyrotoxicosis followed by hypo, and person can recover completely into euthyroid. Adult thyrotoxicosis, Graves' disease, and miscellaneous groups. Neonatal thyrotoxicosis, they occur almost in 5% of thyrotoxic murders. It is because of the passage of TSH receptor stimulating antibody passed on into via placenta and acts on a fetus. There is a very high mortality, 20% mortality if not treated early, and it is associated with some of the abnormality like cranial synostosis, learning difficulties. Fetal thyrotoxicosis can produce abnormal CNS myelination, etc. This is a typical features of a neonatal Graves' disease, or we call neonatal hyperthyroidism, and this is the mother which is suffering from Graves' disease, and this is a typical feature what you can get in a neonatal. Low birth weight, microcephaly, frontal bossing, triangular face, warm skin, moist skin, irritability, hyperactivity, restlessness, poor sleep, etc. This is a 2-week-old baby born to a hypergravid mother, hyperthyrotoxicosis mother, Graves' disease. As the child goes, tachycardia, cardiomegaly, cardiac arrhythmia, congestive heart failure, increased appetite, poor weight gain, diarrhea, diffuse goiter, and exophthalmos. So this is that particular features at the 3 weeks. Little difference in thyroiditis and hyperthyroidism. Thyroiditis is very commonly seen in women. This is also commonly seen in women. This is because of viral infection, it is a self-limiting, while this is because of the autoimmune, mainly stimulating antibody. This is following a URTI. This is unknown. This is due to leakage of T34. This is because of localized infiltrations. Tender enlarged thyroid gland, while here it is usually non-tender and person will have a exophthalmos. Fever is a common feature in thyroiditis, while this is diffuse smooth enlarged thyroid goiter. Elevated T34 in both, low TSH in both. In thyroiditis, diminished radioactive uptake because there is a destruction and inflammation of a thyroid gland, while here there is an increased diffuse homogeneous radioactive uptake. So this is a small difference between thyroiditis and hyperthyroidism. Best way to differentiate is by radioactive uptake. Very easy to differentiate. Here there will be diminished uptake, here there will be a diffuse and homogeneous increased radioactive uptake. So that is a very simple. Another is exophthalmos will be very common feature in hyperthyroidism, and it is non-tender, while this is tender enlargement of a thyroid gland, and it is usually temporary. It is usually temporary. A primary and secondary thyrotoxicosis difference, there is a small difference we call as in primary. Usually we come across CNS symptoms more common in primary, that is exophthalmos is very common, and CNS findings like tremors, tachyarrhythmias, etc. While in secondary variety, cardiovascular system finding like tachyarrhythmias are predominant as compared to exophthalmos. So eye signs are very common in primary, while in secondary usually eye signs are very rare. So simple most way to differentiate between the two. Secondary is very common in adult and older people, while primary is very common in a younger age groups. These are the common features: anxiety, insomnia, all the signs of exophthalmos, tremors, weight loss, diarrhea, etc. These are goiter, you will have an enlarged goiter and excessive sweating, all those features we already mentioned here. So increased bowel movement, that is diarrhea, weight loss, tremors, warm moist skin, tachycardia, atrial flutter fibrillation, dry throat, persistent soreness, excessive sweating, insomnia, all these are the common feature. You can have all this again mentioned in a different way. You will have hyperglycemia, hyperventilation, hyperlipidemia, weight loss, negative protein balance, or we call muscle mass loss, muscular weakness, hypothermia, sweating, hyperlipidemia producing hyperlipidemia, and there will be accelerated breakdown, finally ending up with a low LDL and low cholesterol level, hyperglycemia, osteoporosis, hypercalcemia, and because of hypercalcemia, hypercalciuria, hyperexcitability of CNS producing tremors, reflexia, hyperreflexia, insomnia, because of muscular wasting, muscular weakness, and effect on the eye, exophthalmos, and all the signs of exophthalmos, ophthalmoplegia. You can have a extraocular muscle involvement also, and you will have a breakdown of liver will produce excess of glucose by lipogen, what we call glycogenolysis and neoglucogenesis. Even there will be a breakdown of steroids and other drugs. On a heart, it will produce increased stroke volume, tachycardia, increased cardiac output, wide pulse pressure, atrial flutter fibrillation, increased GFR, and there will be increased sodium reabsorption, increased peristalsis, so producing diarrhea, malabsorption of certain nutrients, etc. So this is an entire picture again shown. You will have a goiter, or you can have a toxic nodular, or it can be factitious, or it can be rapid replacement, iodine replacement, ectopic TSH production. You will have a lid leg sign, fine tremors, sweating, excitability, anxiety, brisk reflexes, low LDL, diarrhea, weight loss, osteoporosis, atrial fibrillations, wide pulse pressure, all those things you will see. Tremors, tachycardia, irregular pulse, goiter, warm moist skin, muscular weakness, lid leg sign, lid retraction, and in some person you can get even gynecomastia. So all these are shown in a different picture way. This is neurological symptoms, anxiety, nervousness, nightmares, tremors of the tongue, hands, agitation, hyperreflexia, etc. CNS already we have mentioned, CVS, increased pulse rate, tachycardia, water hammer pulse, cardiac arrhythmias like atrial flutter fibrillation. You can have a wide pulse pressure, cardiac arrhythmias, even person can develop failure, increased appetite but weight loss, polyuria, diarrhea, fatigue, sweating, osteoporosis, goiter, maybe a smooth goiter in a Graves, toxic multinodular goiter we call as a plumber, and single solitary nodule goiter's disease. Because of goiter itself, it can have a compressive symptoms like tightness, feeling, coughing, hoarseness of voice, difficulty in swallowing, difficulty in breathing, proptosis, coughing, dysphagia, dyspnea. You examine the thyroid gland, size, shape, skin, surface, consistency, whether it moves with deglutition or not, then age and palpable thrill, and you can auscultate for a bruit. And if you are suspecting a retrosternal goiter, you can do a percussion on the manubrium sterni. You can look for all different eye signs. There are lot numbers of eye signs. Some of the common proptosis, corneal damage, periorbital edema, chemosis, conjunctival injection, extraocular muscle impairment, optic neuropathy. As far as goiter is concerned, very commonly it is a diffuse goiter in a what we call as Graves' disease. It can be soft to slight form, non-nodular. You can have a bruit. You can that will be on auscultation. You can palpate the thrill. It will move with deglutition, non-tender, and there is no lymphadenopathy. So in a Graves' disease, you will have a goiter, hyperthyroidism, exophthalmos, localized mixed edema, thyroid acropathy, and you will have a TSH receptor antibody positive, strongly positive. Lid-leg sign will be strongly positive in all the patient with hyperthyroidism, or we call thyrotoxicosis. These are all the different signs what you come across in eye signs we already mentioned. You can see chemosis, periorbital edema, and you've got exophthalmos. Clearly you can see an exophthalmos. And you can grade exophthalmos depending upon the severity, mild, moderate, severe, and progressive, depending upon the clinical findings. Here all the detail regarding that is being mentioned. At your leisure time, you can go through that. These are typical exophthalmos. You can see a severe exophthalmos, proptosis, and eyeball. Very clearly you can identify, and here along with that you've got congestion and periorbital edema. Clearly you can see, very clear. And depending upon the severity, eye signs, soft tissue involvement, proptosis, extraocular muscle involvement, corneal involvement, and then loss of sight, grade into 0 to 6. So you can grade according to this, and this is a grading done by Van Dyke modifications. Van Dyke modification. There is another way to remember: no symptoms and signs, only signs, no symptoms, soft tissue involvement, proptosis, E for extraocular muscle involvement producing diplopia, cornea involvement like keratitis, and then you have got an impairment of the eyesight because of compression of an optic nerve. It is called nose spec. You can remember this way or you can remember this. This is grading 0. So this is N for 0 that way. These are all the names differently given: Stilwell sign, von Grafe sign, Joffre sign, Mobius signs, etc. This will be important for the students. At your leisure time you can go. These are 4 common signs which are commonly utilized in your everyday practice. Absence of normal blinking we call Stilwex. Inability of upper eyelid to close along with the eyeball movement we call von Grafe sign. Absence of wrinkling of the forehead we call a Joffre sign, and lack of convergence we call as a Mobius sign. These are the most 4 common signs which are being demonstrable, and they are very easily demonstrable. So remember these 4 signs: Stilwex, von Grafe. It is not von, it is pronounced as a von. Joffre sign and Mobius sign. There are a lot of other signs. These are all those signs. This is Stilwex, Joffre's absence of wrinkling of forehead, Mobius sign, that is no convergence, and this is lid-leg sign. Lid-leg sign is called von Grafe sign. This is absence of forehead wrinkling, and this is Stilwex sign. Stilwex sign is abnormal absence of normal blinking. Very common, classical. Then these are all the other signs, different names given. If you are interested, you can go through. These are all the different signs. Then nothing else but little modification from what we call as the Stilwex signs, von Grafes, Joffres, and Mobius. These are the 4 common signs. So this is Dalrymple signs, von Grafes sign, Gifford signs, Stilwex, Koch's, many names, Joffres, Mobius. All these different names are given. There are a lot of different names. Yes, along with those exophthalmos sign, you can have a goiter, you can have a pretibial myxedema, and nail changes. We call it a thyroid acropathy or onculolysis. These are the common things what you can see. And on a thyroid enlarged gland, because of increased blood flow, you can have even a bruit, which will be very clearly audible and palpable. We call as a thrill. So this is a typical localized myxedema, very commonly seen. This is demarcated lines you will see, and this is nodular variety. Nodular variety. So this is what we call as a localized myxedema in Graves' disease. These are the nail changes we call as a onycholysis, and this is the changes in the fingers, clubbing and periosteal proliferation. That is called acropathy. So changes in the finger and nails will be also very classical in case of a thyrotoxicosis. Very common. This is a, you can see the nail changes, and nail is almost lifted up, and this is also described as a plumber nails. You can see the different changes. This is clubbing, and see this change in the nail. So you call acropathy, and onycho is nail changes. These are changes in the skin. This you can see lot of different varieties of skin changes. You can see this skin changes. This is myxedematous changes, but different varieties of skin changes, mainly seen in a lower lip. Even you can have a vitiligo, quite common. Pretibial myxedema, you can see the different types of changes. Pretibial myxedema, and this is nodular varieties. You can have a psychological changes like disturbed moods, disturbed behavior, hyperactive, insomnia, poor school performance, etc. And if not treated, you can have a lot of tachyarrhythmias, particularly atrial flutter fibrillation, angina, hypertension. Person can have even a failure, and which will be difficult to control. You can have a damage because of exophthalmos to the optic nerve compressions, corneal damage, etc. And you can have a osteoporosis, fractures, hypercalciuria, hypercalcemia, etc. Non-specific changes like hyperglycemia, and you can have what we call as endocrine induced diabetes mellitus, osteoporosis, fractures. Further advance, LDL will be reduced, cholesterol will be also reduced, and this will be because of increased metabolism, catabolism of lipids, and decreased production by liver. Atrial flutter fibrillation failure, hyperdynamic circulation, high output failure, and there can be a good history available. A person is taking a excess of iodine in diet or amiodarone, or person has been repeatedly undergoing angiography or what we call as radiopaque dye studies, maybe like cholangiography, IV urography, etc. And person is having a goiter, and that can end up with a dose-based dose phenomena and can produce what we call as a thyrotoxicosis. A person of a thyrotoxicosis can develop thyroid stromes because of surgery, because of radioactive iodine, or because of severe illness. Some of the common precipitating factor like radioactive iodine or iodine contrast media, or person can have sudden withdrawal of the drug, severe infection, diabetic ketoacidosis, cardiovascular disorders, cardiac failure, surgery, trauma, radioactive iodine, drug reaction, iodine contrast media that we have. These are the three common, very common. Acute illness, surgery, etc. All this can end up with thyroid storm, or we call thyrotoxic storm. Person who develops thyrotoxic storms will have hyperpyrexia, sweating, tachycardia, atrial flutter fibrillation, nausea, vomiting, severe diarrhea, person will have a severe and acute weight loss, seizures, altered level of consciousness, and person can be even unconscious. So this could be the presentation in a thyrotoxic storms, or person can even have hypokalemic periodic paralysis. There is one variety what we call as acute suppurative thyroiditis, where thyroid gland gets involved because of bacterial involvement. You will have a swollen glands, hot tender glands, all the signs of inflammation. Person will have a fever, rigors, etc. And in this you can have a three different stages. We call initially you can have a little secretion, excess of production of a thyroid hormone followed by hypo, and when the person recovers you treat, person can become completely euthyroid. But if the thyroid gland is very badly damaged, person will have a hypothyroidism. Initially you will have a T34 being elevated, TSH may be low. Later on all three T34, TSH will be normal. In a person with a thyrotoxicosis, you will have a free T34 being elevated and TSH will be markedly low. In a case of a Graves' disease, TPO antibody will be positive, but strongly stimulating antibody of TRAB, we call thyroid receptor stimulating antibody, will be strongly positive. Even you will have an elevated level of a thyroglobulin antibody. Ultrasound will be very useful to find out the size of the tumor, type of the tumor, and also whether it is malignant, non-malignant, invasive, non-invasive, hyperechoic, hypoechoic, because hypoechoic is more in favor of a cold nodule and it will be more in favor of a malignancy. You can have a technetium scan or radioactive iodine uptake studies where primary thyrotoxicosis will have an increased radioactive uptake, particularly in a Graves' disease, toxic multinodular goiter, toxic adenomas. In those conditions, you will have an increased uptake, and also in a conditions where there is an external stimulus by a TSH on a thyroid gland, like TSH secreting tumors, chorionogonadotropic secreting tumors, etc. Also, there will be increased radioactive uptake. But in a disorders like thyroiditis, inflammation, infections, in those conditions the radioactive uptake will be little bit reduced, and in a destroyed thyroid gland you will have a marked decrease in the radioactive uptake. In a suspected person with a thyroid nodule, cold nodule, etc. will be having some slides further where you can go for an FNSC to find out whether it is a malignant or a non-malignant. We have already told you that thyroid stimulating hormone receptor antibody is strongly positive in a Graves' disease. ECG will show you tachycardia, atrial fibrillation, flutter. Radioactive iodine uptake scan can be done. This is one simple slide which will tell you a lot of things. So I'm taking little time here. Any person who comes to you with a increased free T34 with low TSH, it is more in favor of primary hyperthyroidism. If you got a classical goiter, smooth goiter with exophthalmos, suspect Graves' disease. And when you suspect Graves' disease, if you want to confirm, you can go for TSH receptor stimulating antibody will be strongly positive. TPO will be also positive, and thyroglobulin level, thyroglobulin antibody will be also positive. But in absence of eye signs and no goiter, or there is a very small goiter, go for a radioactive iodine uptake study. If it is high, suspect Graves' disease or suspect external stimulus of thyroid gland like choriocarcinoma, chorioform moles, hypersecreting tumors of human chorionogonadotropics, or even in a person with secretion of TSH secreting tumors like ovarian teratomas, testicular teratomas, struma ovari, bronchogenic carcinoma, etc. In those conditions, there will be increased radioactive uptake. If radioactive uptake is low, suspect subacute thyroiditis, silent thyroiditis, or Graves' disease with an iodine overload. in those particular condition or factitious thyrotoxicosis. In all these conditions, you will have a decreased radioactive iodine uptake studies. While if a person who has got an increased free T4 level, low TSH level, no eye signs, and there is a solitary nodule, single nodule or it is a multinodular, then it is a toxic adenoma, solitary nodule, or toxic multinodular goiter. When it is toxic multinodular goiter, we call it a Plummer disease. And when it is a solitary nodule, we also use one word, goiter's disease. While in a Graves disease, it is called as a Bezdose disease. Now we have got a second condition where TSH is also high and T4 is also high. That means there is something which is secreting excess of TSH. Either pituitary tumors, so go for MRI, CT scan. If that is normal, that may be TSH secreting tumors other than pituitary, like bronchogenic carcinoma, ovarian teratoma, testicular teratomas, etc., which are TSH secreting tumors, etc. And whenever you suspect pituitary tumor, go for other hormones levels, because along with pituitary tumors, that is along with TSH elevation, you can have a growth hormone being elevated, prolactin being elevated, or you can have even elevation of ACTH. But if there is a beta cell tumors, then you can have a TSH level elevated, ACTH level elevated, but now because of compression of the rest of the pituitary gland, the growth hormone and prolactin level will be reduced. So you can find out what type of tumor, pituitary tumors are there, and you can find out by doing CT and MRI, because you can find out the invasion of the surrounding structure like cavernous sinus, optic chiasma, third ventricle, hypothalamus. Even hypothalamus can be destroyed because of a pituitary tumor, expanding pituitary tumor. And pituitary tumor can even destroy the floor of sella turcica. You will have even widening of a pituitary fossa and invasion into cavernous sinus. Now suppose if T4 is normal and TSH is low, meaning subclinical thyrotoxicosis. In a subclinical thyrotoxicosis, if T3 is high, go for early Graves disease or toxic nodular goiter. And if T3 is low, euthyroid 6 syndrome, very commonly because of acute illness. And if T3 is normal, T4 is normal, and TSH is low, then subclinical, usually due to levothyroxine treatment, very commonly, or because of a mild Graves disease or an early stage of mild toxic multinodular goiter. So this is a very simple and very useful. Repeatedly see this particular, you will be able to rule out all these common conditions. Almost 95% is Graves. Rest are because of what we call as a toxic nodular goiter or multinodular goiter, toxic multinodular or toxic solitary goiter. Very rarely it is because of a TSH secreting tumors, rare conditions. You can identify very easily. And also if T3 is low, T4 is normal, reverse T3 is high, suspect sick euthyroid syndrome, or we call euthyroid 6 syndrome, etc. So this is a very useful slide. Go through again and again. This is same thing what we have mentioned before. All those are mentioned again. What was there in the previous slides. At your leisure time, if you are interested, you can go through. This is again the same slide as we have mentioned before. You can go through at your leisure time. What we have mentioned before, same thing you can make out now. TSH low, T3 high, T4 high, primary. TSH low, T3 normal, T4 normal, subclinical. If TSH is high, T4 is also high, T3 high, secondary. If TSH is high, T4 is high, T3 is also high, It can be thyroid hormone resistance. If T3 is high, TSH is low, and T4 is normal, T3 thyrotoxicosis. If T3 is low, T3 is markedly low, T4 is normal, and TSH is normal or marginally low, sick euthyroid. You can also have a T4 high in amiodarone. Tertiary conditions, tertiary disorder, that is hypothalamic, TRH will be high. And in a neonatal, you will have a TSH receptor antibody, stimulating antibody will be very high. And this is what we call as difference between Graves' disease and Hashimoto's. In a Graves' disease, TPO will be positive, thyroglobulin will be also positive, but strongly positive will be TSH receptor stimulating antibody will be strongly positive. In autoimmune, you will have a TPO antibody strongly positive, and you will have a TSH receptor blocking antibody will be positive in 20% of the people. If a person is having a nodule, you will have to take a good history, have a good examination of a thyroid gland regarding all size, shape, fixity, mobility, movement with deglutitions, tender, non-tender, soft, hard, fixed to the deeper structures. You can palpate for a bruit. You can palpate for a thrill, auscultate for a bruit, look for retrosternal goiter, etc. Now in that person, do a serum TSH. If TSH is high, you can go directly for the ultrasound. If TSH is low, go for a radioisotope uptake studies. If it is a cold nodule, look for ultrasound and then go for FNAC biopsy. If it is a hot nodule, it is usually non-malignant, and if person is having what we call as a thyrotoxicosis, you can go for drugs, iodine or surgical therapy. And depending upon the type of a nodule, smooth goiter, Graves' disease, multinodular, toxic goiter, plumber, single solitary nodule, toxic, increased radioactive iodine uptake, it is called solitary nodule. In all the three, same treatment, surgery, radioactive iodine and drugs. In ultrasound, if it is less than 1 centimeter and cold nodule, you can have a follow-up studies. More than 1 centimeter and you are suspecting, you can go for aspiration. If it is cyst, go for aspiration, rule out malignant, and if it is malignant, surgery. If it is solid, go for FNAC. If it is non-diagnostic, you can repeat again FNAC. If it is malignant, if there is a suspected malignancy or it is you cannot determine indeterminate Hurtle's or indeterminate follicular malignancy, you can go for surgery or radioactive treatment and radioactive uptake scans. And if it is showing a cold nodule, go for surgery. And if it is benign by FNAC, you can wait, you can have a regular follow-up. So this is what you can do in a what we call as a nodule. As far as a radioactive scan is concerned, in a Graves, it is a homogeneous uptake. In a Dequarian variety, there is a almost absent radioactive uptake, or we call poor radioactive uptake, because it is a severe inflammation with destruction of the thyroid gland. In a toxic nodule, you will have a focal area being affected, where you will have a high uptake, rest of the area may be normal or maybe little bit reduced. In a solitary nodule, only one nodule will show you increased uptake. In a toxic multinodular, you will have a multiple nodules showing increased uptake, and some area will have a decreased uptake. In a thyrotoxicosis factitia, because you are giving a thyroid hormone from outside, there will be suppression of a thyroid gland, so there will be decreased radioactive uptake. So radioactive scan reading becomes very, very important. These are all the different conditions which is showing you a different types. This is increased uptake, smooth uptake, more in favor of Graves' disease. You can see a smooth enlarged thyroid gland with increased uptake. Only one part is having an increased uptake, toxic nodular goiter. And as this is a single nodule, it is a toxic single nodular goiter. You can see there is a cold nodule here. This is warm nodule, this is a hot nodule, single solid nodule. So this is a solitary toxic nodule. This is a cold nodule. This is more likely to be malignant. This is less likely to be malignant. This is smooth uptake, Graves' disease, follicular adenomas. This is multinodular. You can see multiple irregular shapes. Multinodular goiter, or we call as a plumber disease. So these are all different types of, this is again toxic multinodular plumber. This is Graves. This is single toxic adenoma, we call goiters. These are all the different radioactive iodine uptake. This is plain X-ray showing you a retrosternal, or we call superior mediastinal mass because of a goiter, retrosternal goiter. Management wise, any thyrotoxicosis, symptomatic relief, antithyroid drugs, you can use methimazole, carbimazole, or propylthiouracil. PTU is utilized only during pregnancy, during first and second trimester. You can go for radioactive iodine treatment. Absolute contraindication in case of neonates and during pregnancy. Subtotal or total thyroidectomy is another choice. So these are the three main pillars: antithyroid drugs, radioactive iodine, and thyroidectomy. Supportive treatment, NSAID and glucocorticoids are given in a solitary adenoma thyrotoxicosis. Solitary adenoma thyrotoxicosis. Iodine should be avoided to prevent Jones-based dose phenomena, lithium, amiodarone, cholestyramine, all this can interfere with your thyroid functions. So look at the conditions and avoid those. These are all the pharmacological material which are available: perchlorate, thiocyanates, potassium iodide, thioamides, radioactive iodine, and surgery. These are drugs. These are radioactive iodine and surgery. These are all the different drugs. Usually potassium iodide is given prior to surgery to reduce the size of thyroid gland, decrease the vascularity. So pre-operative preparations, you use iodine and you use a Jones-based dose phenomena. Sorry, Wolff-Chekhov's phenomena, which will block the secretion of T34 because of excess of iodine in initial stage. So that phenomena is being utilized. So non-specific treatment, that is rest and sedation, you can utilize. You can utilize sympathetic non-specific beta blockers like propranolol. And specific treatment wise, drugs, surgery, and radioactive iodine. So these are the common three drugs which are being utilized. As far as supportive line of treatment, rehydration, because good number of that the person, because of diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, increased metabolism, they are dehydrated. You can use beta blocker, particularly propranolol is very, very effective. For controlling tachyarrhythmias, calcium channel blockers, beta blockers if they are contraindicated. Congestive treatment of congestive heart failure and treatment of cardiac arrhythmias. Don't use amiodarone. Calcium supplements because of severe osteoporosis and risk of fractures. Lugol's iodine is increased pre-operative preparations to decrease the vascularity of the gland and decrease the secretion of T34 to prevent thyroid storm. So beta blockers, antithyroid drugs are the main pillar. In case of thyroiditis, you can use aspirin, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and very rarely steroids are being utilized. And we have already told you, iodine is utilized in a high doses to have a Wolff-Chekhov's effect to block the secretion of T34 and block. By blocking, you are decreasing the level of T34. So you are helping the symptom signs to be controlled, and during surgery, the release of T34 will be reduced to prevent thyroid storm following thyroid surgery. And also it will decrease the size of thyroid gland. Hence, the vascularity is also reduced. So bleeding during surgery will be also reduced. These are the some of the drugs and these are the doses. If you use a PTU, it is 5 to 10 milligram per kilogram body weight. Methimazole is 0.5 to 1 milligram per kilogram body weight. While we call carbimazole will be double the dose, that is 1 milligram to 2 milligram per kilogram, 1 milligram to 2 milligram per kilogram of carbimazole. Beta blocker is usually given in the form of 40 milligram as propranolol, 40 milligram in a sustained release preparation. Very rarely we require a larger dose. Lugol's iodine is usually given in the form of 126 milligram iodine per ml orally, and you can give depending upon the different complications. Now these are the 4 common diseases which you will face in your everyday practice. In a Graves' disease, antithyroid drug is preferred. Second treatment of choice is radioactive iodine. Usually surgery is not preferred. In toxic multinodular goiter, radioactive iodine and surgery is preferred. While antithyroid drug is a second line of treatment. In a solitary adenoma or single solitary nodule, toxic nodule, radioactive iodine and antithyroid drug is the treatment of choice. Where antithyroid drug is first preferred, surgery is very rarely preferred. And in an acute thyroiditis, mainly steroids and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug is preferred. Radioactive iodine should not be utilized. And in case of a Graves' disease, radioactive iodine uptake is high. In a toxic multinodular goiter, it is slightly increased. In a solitary adenoma, also it is increased. In an acute thyroiditis, the radioactive iodine uptake is markedly reduced. Hence, this will not be of any help in a person with subacute thyroiditis. Usually, it is a self-limiting. Initially, there is a thyrotoxicosis followed by hypothyroidism. But in an initial stage, symptomatic relief by non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and you can go for steroids. So these are all what we have already mentioned. In a diffuse toxic goiter, antithyroid drugs for 1.5 years. Large toxic goiter, you can go for surgery. Toxic nodular goiter, usually subtotal thyroidectomy. Solitary nodule, radioactive iodine can be utilized. Surgery you can go for. Recurrent thyrotoxicosis after surgery, antithyroid drug and radioactive iodine. In a failure of antithyroid drugs, you can go for surgery. So these are the some of the conditions and indications what is being preferred. In a thyrotoxicosis factitia, you will have to cut down the dose of levothyroxine. Don't stop suddenly to prevent what we call as a mixed edema coma. So because of excess of dose, thyroid gland is suppressed, and when you stop suddenly, thyroid gland will stop functioning and you will have a very high chance of person going in mixed edema coma. So in that particularly, look at all the different symptoms and signs and stop thyroxine gradually. Don't stop suddenly. This is what we have already discussed in thyroid nodules. What you do, you identify, you do a radioactive iodine uptake, FNAC biopsy, and depending upon the type of a tumor, you will go for a surgery or you will go for a radioactive iodine or antithyroid drugs. I have already mentioned before. At your leisure time, you can go through. This is again a same algorithm in a Graves' disease, how you undergo. This is in amiodarone induced thyrotoxicosis, type 1 and type 2. In type 1, methimazole or perchlorate is utilized, while in case of type 2, glucocorticoid is utilized. By and large, the surgery is indicated in very few conditions where antithyroid drugs are not effective or radioactive iodine treatment is not being indicated. Surgical treatment can be total thyroidectomy, subtotal thyroidectomy, or complete thyroidectomy. Depending upon the indications, you go for subtotal, total, etc. There are few complications. When you do a thyroidectomy, you can produce even hypocalcemia because you removed parathyroid gland along with it. Person can become permanent hypothyroid, hypoparathyroid, and even he can have a permanent hypothyroidism also. And post-operative complications like sepsis, infections, hypertrophic scar, keloids, thyrotoxic crisis because of sudden release of T3, T4, all those can be complications, and because of surgery, recurrent laryngeal nerve palsy, damage to the surrounding structures, respiratory, trachea damage, esophageal damage, hemorrhage, all those can be complications of a surgery. Thyroid storm management, you will require a beta adrenergic blocker, injectable forms. You will have to use an injectable form. You will have to admit the person in an ICU. You will have to give an oral PTO dose in a larger dose, or you can use a rectal administration. But good number of time you utilize what we call as rectal preparations or oral preparations. And you can also stop the materials which precipitates thyrotoxic storm. So inorganic iodine to block the thyroid hormone release like Lugol's iodine can be utilized. Lithium, patient with an iodine allergy, you can utilize lithium to block the release. If a person has developed a hypothermia, cooling blankets, paracetamol, avoid aspirin, fluid should be given in a good quantity, glucose should be given, thiamine should be given, treatment of congestive heart failure simultaneously, treatment of cardiac arrhythmias, all those should be done. Complication of thyrotoxicosis is one of the dangerous complication is thyrotoxic storms. H is missing here. Severe weight loss, atrial flutter fibrillation, and person can go into congestive heart failure. Person can have hypertension, wide pulse pressure, osteoporosis, hypercalciuria, hypercalcemia, and because of osteoporosis, fracture. Cognitive disorders, psychological disorders, exophthalmos complication, ophthalmopathy, diabetes mellitus, proximal myopathy, acropathy, skin changes, infertility, metromenoregia, gynecomastia, etc. can be some of the complications of thyrotoxicosis. And secondary to neoplastic, secondary metastasis, toxic goiter or neoplastic goiter can produce a compressive symptom on esophagus, trachea, and recurrent laryngeal nerve. Also, you can have a complication secondary due to surgery or radiotherapy or because of drugs. That can be also one of the things. Here I end my lecture here. I hope this will be very helpful to you, and go through again and again. You will get, no doubt the incidence of thyrotoxicosis are less as compared to hypothyroidism, but still it is commonly seen in your everyday practice. The most common is we call as Graves' disease.